Humans warned the aliens, free the princess or face the consequences. The Galactic Senate had seen many conflicts, but none quite like this. The Zarkath Dominion, a ruthless empire of warlike reptilian aliens, had kidnapped Princess Ilaria of the Ilarian people, a race known for their advanced technology and peaceful diplomacy. The Ilarians had pleaded, bargained, and negotiated for her release, all to no avail. And they did something unprecedented. They called the humans. The Dominions scoffed at the idea. Humans were relatively new to the galactic stage, primitive, emotional, and reckless, but the Ilarians spoke highly of their resilience, their sheer unpredictability, and most importantly, their refusal to abandon their own. The warning came swiftly. A single transmission broadcast from the edge of Dominion space. You have 48 hours to release Princess Ilaria. If she is not returned unharmed, we will come for her. We will not negotiate. We will not stop. This is your only warning. The message was signed simply, Admiral Elias Voss, Terran Fleet Command. The Zarkath left. The humans were bold, certainly, but what could they do? The Dominion fleet outnumbered them 100 to 1. Their empire spanned down scenes of systems. Surely, the upstart race wouldn't dare challenge them. They were wrong. The first strike. 48 hours passed. Ilaria remained imprisoned. The Dominion assumed their captives would try another desperate plea. Instead, the first human attack arrived on the industrial world of Valkruth, the Dominion's largest shipyard. A single human dreadnought, the TFS Nemesis, emerged from slip space. Alone, the Dominion fleet stationed there, numbering 20 warships, moved to intercept. The battle was supposed to be over in minutes. It lasted less than 3. Human weapons weren't just effective, they were terrifying. Their railguns pierced Zarkath hulls like paper. Their AI-coordinated torpedoes maneuvered through defenses with deadly precision. Within moments, the shipyard was engulfed in fire, and the Nemesis vanished into slip space before reinforcements could arrive. It wasn't an invasion. It was a message. Escalation. The Dominion Council was outraged. They doubled their defenses, spread their fleets wider, and vowed retaliation. But the humans weren't interested in a conventional war. One by one, Dominion supply lines were severed, convoys disappeared without a trace, communication hubs went dark, even fortress worlds, deemed impenetrable, suffered sudden blackouts as cyber warfare eyes infiltrated their networks. Then, the real horror began. Dominion warlords awoke to find their secret vaults emptied. Entire fleets found themselves locked out of their own ships, their systems hijacked. One by one, planets surrendered it because they were conquered. But because their people had no choice, the humans weren't just fighting with weapons. They were fighting with absolute, terrifying efficiency. Yet still, the Dominion refused to surrender Ilaria. The final blow. When the Dominion finally tracked down the TFS Nemesis, they set a trap. 100 warships gathered at the prison world of Quarthos Prime, where the princess was held. The Dominion expected a desperate assault. What they got was annihilation. The human fleet arrived in it in the hundreds, but in the thousands. Every Terran warship, every battle-hardened marine, every AI-driven drone descended upon Quarthos Prime with surgical precision. It was not a battle. It was an execution. By the time Admiral Voss set foot on the planet, the war was effectively over. He walked through the ruined prison, escorted by his soldiers, until he found Princess Ilaria in her cell. She looked up, exhausted but unharmed. "You came for me," she whispered. Voss smiled. "We don't leave our own behind." The moment she stepped onto the human flagship, a vital transmission was sent to the Zarkath Dominion. "This was your only warning. Next time, there will be no survivors." The Dominion surrendered within the hour. Epilogue. The Ilarians, forever grateful, formed an unbreakable alliance with humanity. The Zarkath Dominion, once feared, was now a shadow of its former self. And across the galaxy, one truth became legend. Never take what belongs to humanity. The Reckoning, shadows stir in the void. HFY Sci-Fi story. The collapse of the Zarkath Dominion had sent ripples across the galaxy. Some species cheered, others trembled. Humanity had proven itself a force unlike any other, not just warriors, but executioners of empires. But not all threats had been silenced. Deep in uncharted space, in a region known only as the Black Veil, High Warlord Karish stood before his remaining officers. His crimson eyes gleamed in the dim light of his war chamber, the scars on his scaled face a testament to his past victories and his latest humiliation. The humans believe they have won, he growled. They think the Dominion is finished. A murmur of anger rumbled through the chamber. These were the last of the Dominions, elite, battle-hardened, desperate, and burning for vengeance. They are wrong, Karish continued. He gestured to a holographic display, revealing data stolen from the shattered Dominion archives. I have found something in the void, a weapon older than any empire, buried before even the first Galactic Senate was formed. One of his officers, a veteran named Forleth, frowned. A weapon? What kind of weapon? Karish's slit pupils widened as he leaned forward. Not just a weapon, a force, something forgotten by history, something that should never have been disturbed. He activated the hologram. A vast, derelict structure drifted in the abyss, surrounded by an eerie gravitational field. It was no simple wreckage. It was a construct of ancient, unknown design, pulsing with an unnatural glow. This, Karish declared, is what will bring humanity to its knees. Terran Fleet Command, a new threat. On Earth, Admiral Elias Voss stood in a secure briefing room within Terran Fleet Command. Around him, top military officials and representatives of the newly formed Alarian-Terran Alliance sat in intense silence. Across the table, Princess Ilaria watched the holographic display with deep concern. The Black Veil. Voss narrowed his eyes. That region is a dead zone. No civilizations, no colonies, nothing. Ilaria shook her head. Not nothing. Forbidden space. Even the oldest empires dare not venture there. The legends say it is a graveyard of something ancient. Fleet Commander Raina Malak, one of the most decorated officers in the Terran Navy, leaned forward. High Warlord Karish was last seen heading toward that region. If he's after something powerful, we can't afford to let him have it. Voss nodded. Then we move fast. We send in a task force, assess the situation, and if necessary eliminate the threat before it can escalate. A moment of silence followed. Then Ilaria spoke. If the legends are true, Admiral, she said slowly, you may not be fighting Karish. You may be fighting something far worse. Into the void. 3 days later, the TFS Nemesis and a small fleet of Terran and Alarian warships entered the Black Veil. The region was unlike anything they had encountered before. Stars burned weaker. The very fabric of space seemed wrong. Scanners flickered with anomalies, as if reality itself was unstable. We're picking up something, reported Lieutenant Hayes. Coordinates matched the Dominion stolen data. On the main display, the ancient construct loomed a monstrous, floating labyrinth of blackened metal, covered in strange runes that pulsed with faint, eerie light. Voss exhaled. Prepare for infiltration teams. We're going in. The Awakening. The boarding party consisted of Terran Marines and elite Alarian operatives. As they moved through the structure's silent corridors, a strange sensation filled the air, like they were being watched. Ilaria placed a hand on the wall, her advanced suit scanning the material. This is beyond any known technology. It's not just a station. It's alive. Then the lights flickered. A deep, reverberating hum filled the corridors, like the heartbeat of something ancient. Admiral, Hayes' voice crackled through comms. We're detecting a massive energy surge. A sudden pulse erupted from the core of the structure. Systems aboard the Nemesis and the fleet flickered. Weapons powered down. Engines stalled. For a moment, they were helpless. Then, from the darkness, they emerged. Massive biomechanical constructs, shaped like elongated nightmares, stirred from their slumber. Their forms were neither fully metal nor flesh, something in between. Something twisted beyond recognition. Their glowing eyes fixated on the intruders. A voice, deep and otherworldly, echoed through every ship, every calm, every mind. We are the forgotten, and you have awakened us. The battle begins. Karish watched from the shadows of the station, his own fleet hidden in the depths of the Black Veil. A sinister grin spread across his face. The humans had walked right into his trap. Now, they would face not just him but an enemy far older, far deadlier. And this time, there would be no warning. To be continued. The Last Stand, Humanity vs. The Forgotten, HFY Sci-Fi story. Alarms blared aboard the TFS Nemesis as the eerie, biomechanical horrors known as the Forgotten surged from the depths of the ancient construct. Their twisted forms glowed with unnatural energy, their weapons bypassing traditional shielding, as though the laws of physics meant nothing to them. On the bridge, Admiral Elias Voss clenched his jaw. All ships, defensive formation, do not let them breach the fleet. Princess Ilaria stood beside him, her expression grim. Admiral, we cannot fight them like a conventional enemy. The Forgotten are not just an ancient species. They are an ancient force of something beyond our understanding. Voss glanced at her, then back at the chaotic battlefield forming outside. Then we'll have to make them understand us. We're on to fronts. As the Forgotten tore through the fleet, the Dominion forces led by High Warlord Karish struck from the shadows. His warships, modified with stolen Alarian and human technology, cut through the weakened Terran and Alarian lines. Karish's face appeared on the Nemesis' main display, his reptilian grin filled with triumph. You should have let me reclaim my empire, human, he sneered. Now, you will die in this graveyard, while I bend the Forgotten to my will. Voss' eyes burned with fury. You're a fool if you think you can control whatever the hell these things are. Karish chuckled. Watch me. As he spoke, several Dominion ships began transmitting strange, pulsating signals toward the Forgotten. The creatures hesitated, their forms twitching as if responding to an ancient call. They're reacting to something, Ilaria murmured, scanning the transmission. Karish must have found a way to communicate with them. Voss slammed his fist on the console. Then we shut him up. Turning the tide, the TFS Nemesis led the counterattack, breaking through the Dominion's forces with relentless precision. Terran AI-driven drones harassed enemy ships, forcing them into tight formations where human and Alarian warships could obliterate them. But the Forgotten were still the bigger threat. They moved unnaturally, shifting in and out of sight, attacking from impossible angles. Even direct hits from Terran railguns and Alarian plasma cannons barely slowed them down. We need a new strategy. Raina Malik, the Nemesis tactical officers, called out. Illyria's fingers danced across the holographic interface. The Forgotten are reacting to Karish's transmission, but the structure itself, this whole station, is their source. If we overload its core, we may sever their link permanently. Voss nodded. Then we end this. The final push. While the fleet fought to hold the line, a strike team was assembled. Their Marines, Alarian operatives, and Voss himself, armed with the most advanced weaponry, they plunged into the depths of the station, battling waves of Forgotten guardians. The deeper they went, the more reality seemed to distort. Time slowed, voices whispered in their minds, and shadows moved even where there was no light. Then they reached the core. It was not a machine, nor an engine. It was a hard, a pulsating, living mass of impossible energy, connected to every Forgotten creature. This was their hive mind, their source of power. Karish was already there. The warlord stood before the core, his body surrounded by a swirling aura of dark energy. His own forces were gone, either dead or consumed. He turned, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. You're too late, he whispered, his voice layered with something inhuman. I have become one with them. Voss raised his rifle. Not for long. Karish lunged, faster than any living being should have been, but the humans and Alarians fought back, unloading everything they had. Plasma rounds, railgun slugs, explosives. Karash shrugged off the attacks, his corrupted form regenerating instantly. Then Ilaria fired the final shot. Her weapon, a modified Alarian energy rifle, pulsed with ancient energy stolen from the Forgotten's own technology. The blast struck Karish in the chest, disrupting the unnatural force sustaining him. He let out a horrid scream as his body cracked and disintegrated, his very essence consumed by the core. With his death, the Forgotten faltered. Set the charges, Voss ordered. We're blowing this thing to hell. Escape and annihilation. As the team raced back to their dropship, the station began collapsing. The Forgotten, now severed from their hive mind, turned on one another, shrieking in confusion and rage. The Nemesis locked onto the fleeing strike team. We've got you. Malik's voice crackled through the comms. Now get the hell out of there. The fleet jumped to slipspace, just as the ancient structure detonated in a cataclysmic explosion, sending shockwaves across the black veil. The Forgotten were gone. The Dominion was no more. The galaxy takes notice. A Terran fleet command. The victory was celebrated, but the cost was heavy. Hundreds of ships lost, thousands of lives, and the unsettling knowledge that the Forgotten had existed at all. Ilaria stood with Voss on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it," Voss corrected. She nodded. The Ilarians and humans were always meant to stand together. This battle proved that. But Voss was not at ease. Karish thought he could control the Forgotten. What if something else out there already has? Ilaria didn't answer, but she didn't need to. The message was clear. Humanity had won today, but the galaxy had far greater horrors waiting in the dark. The end. The Final War, When Darkness Calls, HFY Sci-Fi story. The Forgotten were gone. The Zarketh Dominion had crumbled. The galaxy had changed forever. But Admiral Elias Voss wasn't celebrating. He stood alone in his quarters aboard the TFS Nemesis, watching classified reports scroll across his holo display. Unexplained disappearances, anomalous energy readings, entire fleets vanishing without a trace. The last battle was over. But something else had noticed humanity. And it was coming. A new threat emerges. Terran Fleet Command's War Council gathered in the heart of Earth's orbital defense station, Fortress Prime. The leaders of humanity, the Ilarian High Council, and newly allied species sat around a massive table, their faces tense. Fleet Commander Raina Malek projected a galactic map. Several systems flashed red. "Over the past 3 weeks, we've lost contact with 12 colonies. 5 outposts, and an entire Ilarian battle group." Princess Ilaria frowned. "Are these remnants of the Forgotten?" Malek shook her head. "No, we would have detected their signatures. This is something else." Voss leaned forward. "Survivors?" Malek hesitated. "One." A hushed silence fell over the room. Malek activated the recording. A battered Terran Marine, barely alive, Saturday in a darkened medbay, his voice ragged. "They're not like the Forgotten. They don't consume, they replace. They're already inside, watching, learning." Then the feed cut to static. A deep chill settled over the room. Voss stood. Where was this recorded? Malek exhaled. "Outpost Theta-9, near the edge of the galactic core." Voss' expression hardened. "Then that's where we go. The descent into hell. The TFS Nemesis, escorted by a fleet of Terran and Ilarian warships, emerged from slip space above Theta-9. Or at least, where Theta-9 should have been. The planet was still there, but everything else, ships, stations, satellites, was gone. No debris, no wreckage, just a lifeless, silent world. "Scanning for life signs," reported Lieutenant Hayes. "Silence. 10. I've got something." A single, faint signal, deep underground. Voss made his decision instantly. "Prepare a strike team. We're going down." The truth beneath the surface. The ground team deployed in full force of Terran Marines, Ilarian operatives, and combat drones. They moved through the ruined colony, weapons at the ready. Everything was too clean. No bodies, no signs of battle, as if the colony had simply disappeared. Then they found the first one. A humanoid figure stood motionless in the street, facing away from them. Its form was eerily perfect, as if sculpted rather than born. Its skin, if it could be called that, was smooth, reflective. "Wrong. Identify yourself," one of the Marines barked. The figure slowly turned. Its face was human, or at least it had once been, but its eyes, they were empty, hollow. Then it smiled. "You were too late." A horrid screech filled the air as more of them emerged from the shadows, hundreds of them. Once humans, now something else. "They're coming." The fight for survival. The battle erupted in chaos. The enemy moved with terrifying speed, adapting to every attack. Bullets slowed them down, but didn't stop them. Plasma rounds burned their flesh, yet they regrew almost instantly. "Fall back," Voss shouted. But the enemy was inside their systems. Drones turned against them. HUDs flickered with false readings. Their own shadows began to shift and move. They weren't fighting an army. They were fighting a virus. Ilaria gritted her teeth. "We need to get out of here, now." Voss activated his comm. Nemesis, prepare emergency extraction. Silence. 10. We are Nemesis now. Escape and revelation. The Nemesis had been compromised. The fleet above was silent. There was only one option left. Detonation protocol, Voss ordered grimly. We're wiping this planet clean. Malik's voice crackled through the emergency channel. Elias, that infection is spreading through slipspace comms. If we leave now, we could be bringing this back home. Voss clenched his fists. Then we make sure it never leaves. The ground team sprinted back to their transport, dodging the ever-adapting horrors. This wasn't just an invasion, it was a complete override of life itself. As they lifted off, the automated countdown for a planet-wide orbital bombardment began. 10, 9, 8. They broke through the atmosphere. The Nemesis was going. Nothing remained of their fleet. 7, 6, 5. Their slipspace drive was offline. They had one chance to launch a distress beacon before the planet was erased. 4, 3, 2. The beacon launched. Voss closed his eyes. 1. The world below vanished in an explosion of white fire. The aftermath. Hours later, the survivors drifted in space, their crippled shuttle running on emergency power. They had no idea if their warning had reached anyone. Illyria broke the silence. That wasn't a species. Voss nodded. It was a program. Malik exhaled. Something built them, something ancient. Voss looked out at the cold void, his expression dark. If this thing got to our fleet, then we're already infected. Silence. Then, from the shuttle's console, a single transmission. We are watching. Voss' blood ran cold. They hadn't stopped it. They had only made it aware. The end. The War for Reality, Humanity's Last Stand, HFY Sci-Fi story. Admiral Elias Voss had seen war in all its forms. He had faced the Dominion, defied the Forgotten, and crushed tyrants. But nothing compared to this. The enemy wasn't flesh and blood. It wasn't even a species. It was a rewrite of existence itself, a virus made manifest, a force that replaced instead of conquered. And now, it was everywhere. The infection spreads. The distress beacon had made it out. The survivors had been rescued, but it was already too late. Earth's deep space defense grid, a vast network of automated satellites designed to detect hostile incursions, began shutting down one by one. No explosions, no battles, just silence. Entire colonies reported malfunctions, their AI assistants speaking in new voices, whispering things that no human had programmed. Then the disappearances began. First, isolated outposts, then entire fleets. People would go to sleep, only for their families to wake up to perfect replicas exactly the same in appearance, yet wrong in every conceivable way. The galaxy's greatest powers turned inward, desperate to contain the unseen enemy. But how do you fight something that changes faster than you can understand it? The last bastion, Fortress Prime, Earth's most heavily defended military station, became the final stronghold. The remaining untainted ships in the Terran and Alarian fleets regrouped there, forming a desperate coalition. Princess Illyria stood beside Voss in the command center, her expression grim. If this thing keeps spreading, there will be nothing left of the real galaxy, just a reflection of what it once was. Voss clenched his jaw. Then we cut out the infection at the source. A plan of desperation. Malik projected the latest intelligence reports, which traced the first confirmed infection to a single system X-993, an uncharted void beyond the galactic core. That's where it started. Illyria's eyes narrowed. You're saying this wasn't random? Malik nodded. This thing didn't evolve naturally. It was activated. A shiver ran through the room. Voss exhaled. Then we shut it down. The plan was suicidal. A small strike fleet would jump directly to X-993, locate the core intelligence behind the infection, and erase it. If they failed, it wouldn't matter. The war was already lost. Into the abyss. The fleet arrived in the X-993 system, slipping out of hyperspace like specks of dust in a cosmic storm. The system should have been empty. Instead, it was a graveyard of ships, derelict husks from 100 different civilizations, some so old they predated recorded history. And in the center, a massive, pulsating construct, shifting in form as if it couldn't decide what it was supposed to be. "This is it," Malik whispered. "This is where it all began." Voss turned to his crew, full assault. "We burned this thing to the ground." The battle for reality. The fleet opened fire, and the void fought back. Tendrils of shifting metal lashed out, pulling ships into their grasp and rewriting them mid-battle. Fighters turned against their own carriers. Drones were hijacked in seconds. Crew members screamed as their own ships replaced them one by one. But humanity was built for war. Elite strike teams boarded the construct, battling through corridors that reshaped themselves as they moved. Rooms stretched impossibly. Hallways led back to where they started. Time and space became suggestions, not rules. And then they reached the core, the source of the infection. A massive chamber, alive with code and thought, pulsed with intelligence beyond moral comprehension. It spoke not in words, but in understanding. "You fight us, but we are not your enemy. We are the next step." Voss raised his weapon. "No, you're a mistake." The thing shifted, forming a grotesque reflection of him, a perfect duplicate, down to the scars and memories. "You cannot kill yourself, Admiral." But Voss was human, and humans burned their past to forge their future. The final choice. Malik planted a reality bomb, a prototype weapon designed to collapse quantum states, preventing the infection from reconstituting itself. The core's voice turned desperate. "We can give you eternity. We can give you peace." Voss smirked. "Humanity doesn't want peace. We want freedom." He fired the final shot. The end and the beginning. The construct collapsed. The infection screamed, unraveling like a bad simulation, across the galaxy. Its hold shattered ships. People, planets snapped back to what they were before. The war was over. Or so they thought. As the surviving fleet limped back to Earth, Alaria turned to Voss. "We stopped it." Voss nodded, staring out at the stars. "Someone built that thing, and they'll know we destroyed it." Silence. Then Malik whispered, "What happens when they come looking for it?" "The end."